I'm Jeni Harvey and I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at Rochdale Boroughwide Housing.
Brilliant. So thank you for joining this. You joined Rochdale Boroughwide Housing last year as the organisation was trying to recover after a period of crisis. What was the position that you faced?
Thank you. It was a really difficult time when I joined RBH. I joined at a time shortly after the inquest into the death of Awab Ishaq, after which RBH as an organisation had effectively been placed into special measures by the regulator of social housing. We've been downgraded to being non-compliant, and I was walking into an organisation where colleagues felt disenfranchised. They felt that they hadn't been listened to. They felt that what had happened had come as a bit of a shock to a lot of them. There'd been really minimal communication with colleagues during the whole period of the inquest. And unfortunately for many of them, the first that they'd heard about what had happened was when they woke up to see it all over the national press. At the same time, relationships with stakeholders were at an all-time low. Community groups, the council, the combined authority, local politicians had all completely lost faith and trust in RBH as an organisation. And our customers, most importantly, felt really let down by us. They felt that they couldn't trust us as a housing provider. And there were, to put it mildly, relationships that desperately needed to be rebuilt. I made it clear from the start when I took the role that what I was not about was doing a comms job on this. That's not what I was here to do. This wasn't about good PR. It wasn't about creating a narrative. It wasn't about putting a nice spin on things and saying, hey guys, everything's fine now. We've got a plan. We've got a new corporate strategy and it'll make everything better. It wasn't that. We've all seen too many comms jobs like that all over the country where people go in and write some shiny press releases and have some media calls and say, we've got a plan, we've learnt our lessons, we're going to fix it. I wasn't about that. I made it really clear with the senior leaders who appointed me that the sort of communications I do isn't about shiny, glossy PR. It's about genuinely looking at the problems, genuinely looking at what's happened here. How can we rebuild trust? What do people think of us? And having some really honest conversations. And ultimately, that might mean telling people things that they don't want to hear. With that in mind, they said, yes, that's what we want. And that's why I took the role. So when I started, there was some key things that I had to prioritize. One was asking colleagues how they felt. Another was talking to our customers and getting out there, not waiting for customers to come to us, but going out into communities, talking to real people. Another one was finding out warts and all what our stakeholders thought of us. We had a feeling that people didn't like us very much. But as I spoke to more and more people across the organisation, that all felt a bit intangible. It was all the bit about ideas. It was, I get a feeling that, and oh, they're not talking to us, they don't trust us. That's probably true. But I wanted to find out really what did people think of the organisation? Where had we gone wrong? How could we make it better? So it started with getting some real, proper, genuine insight work done with our colleagues, with our customers, and with our stakeholders. So before we did anything, finding out where we stood and what the scale of the task before us was. I think the first one is before you say anything, make sure it's true. It's really easy to say, we've changed, we've made things better, we've learned our lessons. But this isn't a job for comms, this is a job for the whole organisation. You need to look around you. Is it true? What has changed and how can you evidence it? Because as we know, our story is always stronger when we get our advocates telling it for us. I didn't want Rochdale Boroughwide Housing to be the only people saying Rochdale Boroughwide Housing has changed. I want our customers to be saying that. I want our colleagues to be saying that. And I want our stakeholders, people like our local politicians, our community groups we work with, I want them saying, oh, things have changed around here. So for me, it meant getting out and about with colleagues all the time on the ground in our communities and having a look at what was really going on, going into the heart of places and seeing what we're doing to make a difference. What do the figures say? What does the data say? What are people telling us? We're saying we've changed, but have we? Is it true? How can we prove it? So that's one top tip. Make sure it's true. Make sure you can evidence it. And don't be afraid to have those difficult conversations with senior leaders where you would stick your hand up and say, look, this something isn't right here. We need to be open and transparent. And that means having difficult conversations internally, just double checking yourself, making sure that what you're doing is the right thing. So that's the first one. The second one is don't come in with any preconceptions around who your customers are and the channels they like to use and the messaging that they like, because you need to know your audience and know the messaging, the tactics, the channels, the language, all that sort of stuff before you even start putting your communication strategy together. In lots of places, it's really easy to say, oh, we've all gone digital now, print's dead. In Rochdale, I really quickly discovered that was not the case. Rochdale's one of the most deprived boroughs in the country, and our principal audience base is people who live in social housing in Rochdale. Now, what they were telling us loud and clear in the customer comms survey that I did when I started is they value a print product. They were asking for a printed newsletter. So, one of the first things I did was bring back a traditional old school printed newsletter that was hand delivered through the doors of every single one of our homes, nearly 13,000 homes across Rochdale. Now, that wasn't cheap. And yes, we could have got far more eyes on social media advertising if we'd done it that way, but it wasn't about getting the number of eyes on things. It wasn't about reach or engagement metrics. It was about the genuine best way of reaching our customers. They told us that was it. It's been a year or so now since we reintroduced the newsletter, and our customers are telling us that they value it, that they think it's a really, really good way of telling them the things that they need to know. And I know that through doing quarterly check-ins and asking, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we improve? And we keep changing up the format every quarter to make sure that it's accurately reflecting what our customers want. So those are the top two. It's about being
Yeah.
honest, it's about knowing your audience, but also I think it's about making sure that your colleagues aren't just the people who you happen to work with. Your colleagues, if you communicate with them properly, should be your very, very best advocates. So what I've seen over the past year is a real sea change in the culture at Rochdale Boroughwide Housing, where our colleagues who, when I started, frankly, didn't want people to know that they worked there. They were ashamed to work for RBH. They were hiding the lanyards when they went out and about in the town. Now, it's a totally different story. We've seen people who are happy to work for us. They're posting really proactively on social media. They're sharing our job roles. They're shouting about all the good things that we offer. And that is making a genuine difference in terms of encouraging more people to come and work for us, building our standing in the local community, building our reputation with stakeholders, and driving forward a positive narrative about what has changed and where are the areas we still need to improve.
And do you see it as a kind of long term kind of approach in that you've mentioned not wanting to go in and do a quick comms job, to actually building out of something that when it's had a big impact is going to take some time.
It will take time. If you want to do things in a real, in a genuine, and in a completely honest way, it does take time. I'm really pleased that the data is showing that we've made a difference. In social housing, we have something called the tenant satisfaction measures, the TSMs, where our customers tell us every year what they think. When I came in, there was not bad, but not great. 75% of customers said they were happy with the comms they received from us. We've taken that up to 80% just in a year, which is great. But
Mm.
it doesn't stop there, because one thing that my chief executive always says is, we'll only know we've truly improved when our customers tell us we have. And that's when I'll know the job's done. Not when I've hit a certain amount of Facebook posts or a certain amount of likes on LinkedIn, or it's not about that. It's about our customers, the people who live in our homes, telling us, yeah, we trust you. Things are better. One last thing I would say is never be afraid to show vulnerability and never be afraid to ask for help. It can feel sometimes as a head of communications or as a director of communications or whatever sort of job title you want to put on it. It can feel like you should have all the answers. It can feel like you're in quite a lonely place. That is not true. You need to lean on those advocates around you who are there to help and are there to be honest. One thing that I always do is double check myself, sense check myself, ask other heads of comms, directors of comms, people in the industry, have I got it right? You know what? I've got this really difficult decision to make. I'm not sure if I've quite got this one. Can I just have a second opinion? Ask your team, ask your colleagues, ask those elsewhere in the business because we don't all get it right all the time. And however senior you are, however experienced you are, however long you've been doing this, it's always good not to be complacent and just to make sure that you're getting things right.